This video is about all of the pros and cons of living in Bend, Oregon. What's up, everyone? This is Derrick Hicks with Fred Real Estate Group right here in Bend, Oregon. And this channel is all about Bend. We cover restaurants, things to do, neighborhoods, and the real estate market. So go ahead and hit the subscribe button and tap the bell so you're notified every time we make a new video. Every day we get calls from people just like you who are thinking about moving to Bend. So if you're thinking about relocating or moving to Bend, then go ahead and give us a call, shoot us a text, send us an email, however you want to get a hold of us. We're here to help when moving to Bend. The first video that I made on this channel was called Why My Family and I Moved to Bend, Oregon. And there were a few people that commented that said I only talked about all of the good things of Bend and I didn't talk about any of the negatives or the cons. And they were absolutely right. So this video is all about the pros and the cons, and we're talking about everything. The first pro is all of the outdoor activities there are here. It's the reason everyone moves here. It's why we moved here, and I'm not even a real outdoors person. It's beautiful. There are so many hiking trails and mountain biking trails that are in the area. The Deschutes River goes right through the middle of town, so you could go ahead and float the river in the afternoon if you wanted to. You could also do some kayaking down the river. If you're into rock climbing, you go to Smith Rock, which is just about 40 minutes outside of town. In the wintertime, you go to Mount Bachelor, which is about 40 minutes outside of town, so you could do some snowboarding or skiing. You could just find a hill and go sledding with the kids if you wanted to. There's also snowshoeing. There are so many endless activities that you could do in Bend. I'm sure there's activities I've never even heard of yet. The next pro is the size of the city. It still has a small town feel to it. Now, this is subjective because if you ask someone that has lived here for 30 or 40 years, they're going to say that Bend has just grown too much and it doesn't feel the same, which is fair. But if you're coming from a metropolitan area like myself, then you'll understand what I'm saying. It has a really slow-paced feel to it, which is very enjoyable. Bend has most of the amenities that you could ask for. There's even an airport that's just 30 minutes away. It has things like Costco, Targets, Walmarts, all kinds of grocery stores, a lot of different shopping. Although one thing that it is missing is things like an IKEA or an indoor mall. Bend overall has a very friendly atmosphere. We've met several people just in random places, like a wine shop that we became friends with and joined a little wine group that they have. We've met several parents just from taking our daughter to the library. It just seems like people are really willing to make friends here. Like everywhere, of course, there are some people that aren't the friendliest. I got flipped off going the speed limit the other day. But overall, I would say there's a very friendly community feel here. The weather could be considered a pro and a con depending on who you talk to. I like it because I love having all four seasons. It does get a little bit cold in the winter. It snows out here. It's not as bad of a winter as somewhere like Wisconsin or Michigan. But if you hate the cold, this probably isn't the place for you. The summers here don't get too hot, although I will say everyone told us that we didn't need an AC when we bought our house, and that was a lie because we were miserable for about a month. We had to buy a little portable AC in order to cool down my daughter's room before nighttime and then transfer it over to our room. So it is beneficial to have an AC, although you don't need it for very long. Another pro is Bend is incredibly dog friendly. The city was once voted the most dog friendly city in the US by some obscure magazine. There are several off-leash dog parks here in town. There are a lot of restaurants with patios where you could bring your dog, and there are so many dog waste stations just in the area that you have no excuse not to pick up your dog's poop. Restaurants could be considered both a pro and a con. One of the things I really like about Bend is that most of the restaurants are locally owned instead of having a lot of chain restaurants around, which I think is great. Some people might consider it a con because there's not a whole lot of fine dining available here in the city. There's a few options available then you're not going to find a whole lot of diversity within food. So it's missing things like Ethiopian restaurants, Korean restaurants, things along those lines. One of the biggest pros of Bend is all of the breweries that we have here in town. There are over 20 breweries available. Many of them have exceptional food that you could enjoy, and there's a few that have lawns that you could just hang out with your family and have a great time. One of the cons of Bend is there's not a huge nightlife here in town. Although, full disclosure, I have a young daughter, so I don't go out very often anyways. So maybe someone could enlighten me if there is a nightlife here. A huge pro for my family and I is that there are 80 parks here in Bend, which is great because we have a little toddler who loves going to parks, so we have endless options. A major con to Bend is the job market. A lot of the largest employers in town are, it's great companies, but they're not really the highest paying jobs out here, which makes it a little bit harder to afford living here. That's one of the reasons why so many citizens here are remote workers. It's something like 12 to 15%. So this sounds obvious, but you have to have a job lined up before you move here, whether it's remote work or whether you found something here in town. A big con is the cost of living has gone up significantly recently. Since 2015, median sales prices have gone up 83%. A major con in Bend is the homelessness here. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people that live on the streets, which is really sad. The city knows that it's an issue, and they've recently changed some zoning laws in order to get some more affordable housing in the city. Hopefully one day that does end up helping the issue. A con of living in Bend is the smoke during the summertime. Seeing how Bend is surrounded by wilderness, there are sometimes wildfires, and that smoke just happens to settle right in town. This past summer was especially bad. We ended up actually going up to visit the in-laws in Washington to just have a little less hazardous air. Another con of living in Bend is the childcare here. So there's not a lot of openings available. It's pretty expensive. If you need to do infant care, then you need to sign up as soon as you find out you're pregnant because it is hard to get a spot open. The final con that was recently brought to my attention by a commenter on one of my older videos, where he said one of the big cons were people like this guy.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
If you're interested in moving to Bend, download our free relocation guide that you can find in the description down below.